Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Joe Tophat. It's that time of year again, the time for Simpsons Treehouse of Horrors. Unlike most episodes, the Treehouse of Horror is a once-a-year event that allows the Simpsons writers to just cut loose. They don't have to rely on any logic that the show follows. They can just do whatever they want. And if they want to kill a character, like Bart Simpson for instance, they sure as hell can do it. And regardless how you feel about the show right now, there's no denying the power of Treehouse of Horror. It's a Halloween event we all look forward to, and some segments are definitely better than others. So I decided to do a top 10 of my favorite Treehouse of Horror shorts. Let's begin the countdown. At number 10 is Homer Freebie. Marge's sisters are coming for a visit, and instead of tolerating them, Homer decides to take his chance in another dimension. It's a little hard to believe now, but back in the 1990s, CG animation wasn't as common as it is today. It's still impressive to look at to this day, but it may not be as impressive as some of the CG we have now. But this episode is mostly on here because of the fact that it was so ahead of its time. At number 9, If I Only Had a Brain. Homer gets fired by Mr. Burns for falling asleep on the job. Mr. Burns is so sick of employees being so lazy that he decides to replace them with, well, a robot. He goes to the graveyard and finds Homer's body in an open grave and decides to steal it to take his brain. Well, like Frankenstein, let's just say it didn't turn out as well as can be expected. And why wasn't that an episode? At number 8 is Desperately Seeking Xena. Comic Book Guy is a villain known as the Collector, and he kidnaps Lucy Lawless at a convention. Bart and Lisa are superheroes known as Stretch Dude and Clobber Girl, and it's their job to save Lucy Lawless from this ultra big fat nerd. It so reminds me of the Silver Age of superheroes, and it's so much more fun than a lot of the CW shows have been. Why is Stretch Dude and Clobber Girl not their own superhero series? At number 7, it's The Devil and Homer Simpson. Homer can't find a donut to eat at the nuclear power plant, so he decides to sell his soul to the devil, who turns out to be Ned Flanders. It's always the one you least suspect. Instead of throwing away that last piece of the donut to save his soul, he decides to save it for later, and rather stupidly eats it as a midnight snack. Well, he goes on trial for his soul. Good old Homer, doing something as stupid as selling his soul to the devil for a donut. At number 6, it's the monkey's paw. Homer gets a monkey's paw while they were visiting a foreign country. And like in the W.W. Jacobs story, this paw grants wishes, but they don't grant it, well, the way you would hope it would. Maggie wishes for a diamond pacifier. Bart wishes that the Simpsons be world famous. And I have to say, they really captured how people were really sick of the Simpsons. Hell, it could speak today of how people feel about them. Lisa wishes for world peace, and Homer gives the most thorough wish I had ever heard anybody give. It's a very clever episode, and it's really funny to see the things they wish for. And it's a great satire on the show's popularity itself and how people reacted to it. At number 5, Time and Punishment. It seems like most of my picks have revolved around Homer Simpson, but they just tend to be my favorite. Homer was fixing a toaster and somehow changes it into a time machine. Man, Homer is really stupid, but here he's able to build a time machine out of a toaster? He should get the Nobel Prize for that! Well, he goes back to the prehistoric times and he kills all these different prehistoric creatures, and somehow they end up changing the entire future, like Ned Flanders being the supreme dictator of Springfield, Bart and Lisa being really huge. And my God, if only Homer had stayed for a few seconds longer in that timeline. If you like time travel and the consequences you can have and change in the past, this one's up your alley. At number 4, it's Terror at 5.5 Feet. Based off of the Twilight Zone episode, Bart has a nightmare on his own impending doom, and he sees on the side of the bus that a gremlin is wrecking it. And like William Shatner's character in the Twilight Zone, he panics and tries to warn everybody, but they all think he's crazy. It's really funny to see how everybody just ignores his warnings, and even after it was exposed that he was right, they still have him committed. Poor Bart. At number 3, Fly vs. Fly. Professor Frank is selling off his inventions at a yard sale. He sells a teleportation device to Homer, which was priced at $2, but Homer buys it for 35 cents. Must have been desperate to get rid of it to sell it so cheap. Homer uses it for various stuff, but he won't allow Bart to use it because he would be irresponsible. One night, Bart decides to combine his DNA with that of a fly. It doesn't go as well as he plans. His head goes on the fly's body and the fly's head goes on his body. And the fly wants to keep it that way. At number 2, Bart Simpson's Dracula. The Simpsons family get invited to Mr. Burns' estate at Pennsylvania. Well, at the mansion, Bart and Lisa stumble upon a crypt filled with vampires, and Mr. Burns turns Bart into one. They have a lot of funny jokes, and my favorite one has to be when Grandpa wants to drive a stake through Bart's heart, and when Marge says, "How do you know he's a vampire?" his reaction, "He's a vampire? He just wanted to kill Bart." For no reason. At number 1, The Raven. Out of all the Treehouse of Horror segments, The Raven has to have the least amount of jokes. There are a few like that clever reference to forgotten lore and Cask of Amontillado and various Poe stories, and even the various Barts running around the Homer's head saying nevermore, nevermore, nevermore. But the thing of it is that it captures the Poe poem very well. It takes itself very seriously in exploring the themes such as loneliness and loss. This is what got me into reading Edgar Allan Poe. It's a very strong segment just for that. And the animation works and it captures the atmosphere of the poem about the best I've ever seen. Now, the only drawback...
Hey, Caramba, how could you say that Blackbird poem was the best segment of the Treehouse of Horrors? I fell asleep halfway through it, man. It wasn't scary at all. I can't believe the writers picked up something by that Edgar What's-It Dorgo. Lisa must have put him up to it.
Your show hasn't been funny in 10 years. Thank you. The only negative thing I have to say about it is that Bart's interruptions get really annoying. In the early Treehouse of Horror episodes, the segments were presented as stories that the characters would tell. And once they go into the story, they don't come back until the story is over. Whereas with The Raven, they keep jumping back to the treehouse, and it just takes you out of the poem. And there were many times I wanted to slap Bart for interrupting. Even the people who worked on this segment admit that Bart's interruptions had proven unnecessary, since English teachers to this day uses it to help teach Edgar Allan Poe. Well, regardless of that flaw, it's still the best segment they ever made. And that's my top 10 of the Treehouse of Horror's best shorts. Let me know in the comment section which segments that you like that I didn't include. And don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later.